Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Goosebumps Man channel, and today I am bringing you guys another episode review from the original 90s Goosebumps TV show. And the episode today I will be reviewing is The Girl Who Cried Monster. Now, if questioning why am I holding up the Monster Blood DVD, well, if you look on the back, The Girl Who Cried Monster is one of the episodes featured. But yeah, Girl Who Cried Monster. As I mentioned in my book review, this is a top 10 episode for me. I love this episode so much. It is just, it's eerie, it's atmospheric, it's some good acting throughout it, some great practical effects. It's just a really good episode overall. So, to get into kind of the plot synopsis, if you saw my book review, you know the plot. It's basically the same idea. Lucy Dark starts telling different monster stories to scare her brother and just to kind of just be goofy about it. She's, scaring her brother, just telling all these stories to the point where her family and friends are sick of it. And while she is at the library for this Reading Rangers program she ends up seeing that Mr. Mortman, the librarian, played amazingly by Eugene Lipinski. Like, this guy is awesome in this role. He's probably a top 10 Goosebumps performance for me, hands down. But anyway, Mr. Mormon, she discovers that he is a monster, and in an hour she sees him transform, and she basically spends the whole episode trying to convince her family that Mr. Mormon's a monster and get proof. And there's a lot of great stuff in this episode. This episode is just, I don't know how to describe it. It's something that works so much better than the book, in my opinion. I think that having this story condensed into a 25-minute or 22-minute episode really helps, because the book has some times where it does feel kind of padding. There's a lot of just repeated plot elements that happen just over and over and over again, where it gets kind of old, gets a little boring in the middle section of the book, because it's a 2-hour read, versus this, you can just sit down for like 22 minutes, watch the episode, it flies by, it's much more condensed, and it's one of the few times I feel like where the 22-minute episode format works and aids the story instead of hinders it like some episode adaptations do. I think that just, again, the more condensed runtime, it helps just kind of get the story through in the pacing it needs to. It doesn't get repetitive, it doesn't get boring. You get like 2 or 3 moments of the "you gotta believe me" versus like the 10 or so you have in the book. I think that all the characters are acted well. I can't remember the actress's name who plays Lucy. However, I know she is the sister of Katarina Scarson, who played Sarah in Night of the Living Dummy 2, and she was also Jessica in the Trilogy episodes. She is actually Katarina Scarsoni's sister, which is kind of a cool fact. I think that overall, again, Randy, he's not the best actor. He's a little kid. I don't blame him at all. Honestly, I think Randy's hilarious in this episode. Like, his bad acting, it's a charming bad, because, like, I'm always very forgiving on kid actors. Like, they can be bad actors, and I'm not gonna, like, say they're good just because they're kids. Like, they can be bad actors, but I'm more gracious and more forgiving on it because they're kids. They don't have a lot of acting experience. But again, I found Randy to be hilarious, personally. He can kind of get annoying, but it's a cute, kind of funny annoying. And I think his actor's delivery of some of the lines is great. I think that the parents are both really well acted. They are really fun, kind of very solemn and, not solemn, I don't know, they're very serious. And while they don't believe Lucy, you can tell they still kind of care about her. They still want, they want what's best for her. They're trying to help, even if, again, they don't believe her. But the standout performance in this episode, hands down, no question asked, as I mentioned before, is Eugene Lipinski as Mr. Mortman. This guy, as I mentioned, is a top 10, maybe even top 5 performances of the whole show for me. He is creepy, he is fun, he just has this charm and just charisma in this role. And he nails it. He nails the kind of soft, quiet-spoken, eerie librarian that we see throughout the first part of the episode, and then some other sections near the end. And he does a great job at playing this deranged, terrifying monster that he ends up becoming. And there are some genuinely scary scenes in this episode. Like, for anyone who tells you Goosebumps is just a kid's show and it's not scary, show them this episode, man. Like, this episode is easily one of the scariest episodes in the whole show, alongside, like, Haunted Mask 2. So, yeah, I think, again, it works very well. You know, there's some really tense scenes, especially that scene where he is chasing Lucy in the library after she tries to take a picture of him and the camera flash goes off. That whole scene is so tense and just eerie. And just the way Lucy's, like, hiding in the shelves and waiting, like, the jump scare where Mr. Mormon, like, suddenly reaches through the shelves to grab her, him rounding the corner and just having this, like, sadistic laugh to him, and he's just maniacally taunting Lucy while she's hiding. It's so creepy. The lighting in the library looks fantastic. I love the look of it. You know, the makeup design on Mr. Mormon, as I can show you right here, like, look at that. Look at the practical effects on that makeup. That thing it's so good. It's such a great job that Ron Stefanik did with this makeup. And yeah, Eugene Lipinski, again, all praise goes to him. This guy is awesome in the role. Now, if I had to give some negatives to it, I would say Aaron's acting is pretty rough. He's a very minor character in the episode, though, so it really doesn't affect my enjoyment of it too much. You know, I think the plot twist at the end is same as the book. It's still effective. I think it works better in the episode, just because I like the build-up to it better, because in the book, when they're talking about it, Mr. Mormon asks what's for dinner, and the dad just says, "You are." But the way the episode does it, I really like more, where basically he asks what's for dinner, and then the parents just kind of give each other this knowing little glance. The mom says, "Well, it was going to be a surprise, but since you asked," and then the dad goes, "You are." I think that just, like, I don't know, I think that build up to the line feels way more fun, and just kind of has this, like, adds some eeriness to it, I think. And just, I don't know, there's just something about the way, especially the actors or the parents deliver that line, that really works. Now, the final note the episode ends on is a little goofy, a little cringy. Like, that's definitely the weakest point of the episode for me, is just that last moment after the plot twist, where you see, it's different from the book, where you see, after Mr. Mormon's been eaten, you see this kid in a monster, or this monster mask, floating out in front of the window, and Randy's like, "Oh no, there's another monster here," and the parents just look at each other like, "You better let him in," and they start bringing out their fangs, and then suddenly the monster takes his mask off, and it's just Aaron, and there's this kind of dumb joke about cherry pie and stuff, and it's just like, it ends on a weird note, kind of a little bit of a lighthearted note, which I don't think is necessary. I'm sure they probably felt obligated to do that, though, just because of how dark the episode was, and how dark and intense this episode is. It's very, very scary. If you have kids, like, if you're parents out there who grew up with Goosebumps and don't remember much about the show, and you want to kind of introduce your kids to the episodes and, you know, see if they're engaged their interest in Goosebumps or not, do not show them this episode first. I would not recommend showing really young kids this episode, just because of how intense and scary it is. You know, again, it's easily one of the scariest episodes of the show. I wouldn't recommend starting them off on this episode, because it may scare them away from the show, traumatize them. I know there's a lot of stories from some of my friends, especially, you know, Bjorn from Goosebumps Aussie fan has stated this in a few older videos, where he said Girl Who Cried Monster traumatized his brother in particular. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend showing it to really young kids. Save it for the older kids, and start the younger kids on some of the more tame and silly episodes like Monster Blood, or some of those ones. But still, this is a great episode. Easily one of the best. I give it a 10 out of 10. I adore this episode, and it will always be a top 5 contender for me. And that's all I gotta say about it. High recommendation for anybody who hasn't seen it. Watch the episode. It's fantastic. So, that's my thoughts on the Girl Who Cried Monster episode from Season 1. I believe it's episode 4, I want to say. Yeah, Season 1, episode 4. And yeah, it's just great. So, thank you guys all for watching. Sorry, again, for a little bit of the rambly talk that I usually do in these videos. They're unedited, they're unscripted. I'm just here talking for fun. So, I know sometimes my videos can be a little bit rambly and I can repeat myself, and it's just how my channel works. So, I still like the format. But, anyway, if you liked the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel, as I always say. And stay tuned for more reviews coming soon. But until then, have a scary day, everyone.